Hello
Oh,
and
wait a minute. Before we start.
oh, we already started. Let's just roll.
Yep.
This will be a fun opening. Welcome to episode 215 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and we got a lot of draft talk today.
As usual, the draft was entertaining and fun. It just I think we
It was.
talked.
I think my criticism is that, and I tweeted this out on Thursday night. The draft starts at 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden I get 15 minutes of Kings of Leon, and everybody is wanting, and you don't even start the clock on Jacksonville.
Yeah,
And just like the first pick was made like at 8:29, I think. And I mean, come on, the people aren't there to hear the Kings of Leon.
no,
They're there to celebrate their team and to be there for the draft, and they want to see the draft. And you don't have to have the filler is okay between picks while somebody's on the clock, but it's not what they're there for.
no,
The funniest moment was the guy doing the Macho Savage, that Randy Macho Savage in a Browns decor, and he was a great dancer, and he took over the stage and had a great time. That was the only thing I thought was amusing.
Now, which you watched it on what ESPN?
I watched it on primarily NFL Network,
Okay.
and then I substituted with ESPN.
Yeah.
I can only take so much Greeny.
Oh yeah.
I like Rich Eisen a lot better than I like Greeny because those guys don't get in the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I do feel like I understand you're always trying to. I mean, you did sports marketing. That's your whole thing. Like, how can I make more people watch this event? I don't think you're ever going to get more people to watch the NFL draft than normally watch the NFL draft. Like, I think it's.
No, you're not going to tune in. Oh, the Kings of Leon are wrong. Let's watch the NFL draft.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
not what
watch.
you're
Yeah.
going to do.
I mean, I get the Super Bowl because you got the advertisement. It's such a cultural event. And even though the NFL draft is huge, like, I don't think people are going to tune in because, maybe if you had Beyonce, they'd tune in, but they turn it off after Beyonce was gone, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
you love conspiracy theories. I would submit that if they actually read the pick when the pick was in, you would have done that draft in 2 nights, not three.
oh, yeah.
That they just you delay it so long to just to up your numbers and up your viewership, which is it's what they want to do, but you don't need to do it. It's not. You still have great ratings if it was more suspended, if it was quicker.
And I think,
Like people want it fast and furious now. They don't want it slow and elongated.
no, and like, for day three, I basically just had the Bleacher Report app open, and, it's got the little scrolling bar as, picks come in, and that's how I watched it that day. And then when the Steeler made a pick, I'd wait till they posted the video, then I'd watch that guy's highlights and read in depth. But I'm not even diehard enough, and I look at mock drafts throughout the season. But even I'm not watching day three. And maybe I would if, like you said, if it was sped up and they.
Well, I watched day three because I wanted to see where Wallace and Chuba Hubbard were going to go.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you were to pick three teams you thought did the best in the draft, or do you have any favorite draft teams?
Well, I hate to say it, but I'll say the Browns.
Yeah.
I'll say the Jets, who had no choice but to have a great draft.
It's true. They had a lot of picks.
And a tie between the Panthers and the Chargers
Yeah.
and the Ravens. Those were like five teams that I think just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I think the Chargers got a tackle, which they clearly needed because Justin Herbert was running for his life a lot. I'd add in the Chiefs. They traded their first round pick for Orlando Brown, who's a 25-year-old Pro Bowl tackle who the Ravens couldn't afford because they already have another Pro Bowl tackle on the other side. And, anybody that watched the Super Bowl knows that, they lost that game in the trenches. And they got, Creed Humphrey, the center from Oklahoma, who was either the best or second best center in the draft in the second round. You add Orlando Brown, you get a couple guys back and a few other late round picks, and, the Chiefs are, right back where they want to be. And as we know with the Chiefs, as long as you can keep Patrick Mahomes upright for the next, decade of his career, you're going to be a contender. Like you said, the Browns, we were texting back and forth, like, number 6 for Notre Dame. That's sort of, they call him a safety linebacker hybrid, but he's big enough and fast enough that he can cover tight ends and slot receivers. And I think if you know what you're doing, that guy's just a game changer. And I was hoping he would jump me. You even said it as soon as the Browns traded up. They're like, that's who they're going to get.
Yep.
And, when you add in the Javian Clowney signing, it's just a very solid guy opposite of Myles Garrett. And the way the coach looked last year and that running attack the Browns have and Odell Beckham Jr. coming back, even if they don't even need him, they are just Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I think they're a real scary team. I think they could beat. They and the Chiefs and the Ravens are all going to be in the mix.
Yeah.
And the Bills. But I would put the Bills fourth in that list, even though people have them higher than that. I just think that the Browns and Ravens got a lot better.
They really did. And both those teams have, I guess, almost with 90% of the NFL, their biggest question is probably quarterback. Like they picked up the 5th-year option on Baker Mayfield, which I feel like you have to. But he's got a Ferrari at this point. He's got great players on offense.
Don't forget they're also playing a third-place schedule.
Right.
They're going 11-6. They're playing a third-place schedule.
Yes, and despite coming off a dominant playoff win.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got, blue chippers on every line of the defense. They've got great weapons on offense, a huge offensive line, 2 great running backs. All Baker Mayfield has to do is just, be slightly above average and listen to his coach. And his coach seems like that guy knows what he's doing. And the Ravens, added Bateman and your guy out of Oklahoma State, a receiver, 2 of their biggest needs. And then you add that to Marquise Brown and the other guy that are on that team, and maybe we see a little bit more passing game from the Ravens. See what Lamar can really do.
Well, as you and I have been talking, the Steelers will play either a third or fourth place schedule next year.
I think
probably
so.
the next 3 or 4 years.
I think so. We can, since people know we're talking football, and the Steelers are one of the most popular franchises in the NFL. We can talk our Steelers right now. They had a really nice draft.
Yeah, they did.
Like,
I love Najee Harris.
Yeah, he was arguably the best running back in the draft, and I think I'll use this point before we get to the Steelers. I think analytic guys like to talk about career of a 4th-round running back versus a 1st-round running back and how the numbers stack up, but I think a lot of that is circumstantial. If you're running back drafted high to a bad team as opposed to a 3rd or 4th-round back where you're going to a good team, you're probably going to perform better if you're playing on a good team.
Sure, because you're going to have better linemen.
You're going to have better linemen. You're going to have a better quarterback. You're going to have probably coaching and probably better receivers that open up, keep it from being 8 in the box. Like you look at, 1st-round backs like Saquon Barkley, like he's been facing, an 8-9 man box his entire career. Whereas a guy like Alvin Kamara comes in, plays for the Saints, and he's able to put up huge numbers. And it's not to say that those numbers are wrong. I think you just have to look at, if you look at all the data, maybe it doesn't quite add up to be quite as blatant as it is. And besides that, Najee Harris seems like a great dude. In the 2nd round, the Steelers got a guy that is compared as like a poor man's Rob Gronkowski, which,
That'd be a good thing.
Can be a good thing. And he's a traditional tight end, which, he's a great inline blocker, which if you're the Steelers, you had trouble running the football, another inline blocker would be helpful. They drafted 2 offensive linemen, one from a team that gave up the fewest sacks and gave up the fewest negative plays in football at tackle, and then Green, the guard/center, who only played 4 games at center, which is probably where the Steelers ultimately won him, but one of the best athletes at the position. And then they got a couple of steals late.
He was a really good baseball player, too.
Yeah.
A basketball player.
And then...
And it shows how nimble you are to be able to play that line, to be able to move.
Yeah, and as we talked offline, I wasn't a big fan of trading up for the Wisconsin defensive lineman. I just figured if your best season was 3rd team all Big Ten, I don't have a lot of faith in you. But, the Steelers' defensive line coach has done a good job, and he liked him. And then the last 3 picks, the punter, the kid out of Oklahoma, the safety/corner, who led the 5 interceptions last year, seems like he's going to be a great slot corner. And then the pass rusher out of Miami, who was just incredibly productive both at Temple and Miami. And
I thought it was a good draft. I like the punter. It's a good story.
Yeah.
And I read more about, since you and I talked, I read more about the guy from Wisconsin they traded up for. And he said that the old general manager for the Giants had this theory. There's only so many people that size on the planet. And when you can get one, you take them.
It's true, but we also suffered through 5 seasons of Big Dan McCullers, who is one of the biggest NFL players I've ever seen and just never was able to get it together.
Yeah, we'll see this guy. Dan McCullers did play for a big school, didn't
Tennessee, I thought. But either way,
But I don't know. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt on this pick.
yeah. And the Steelers' biggest need, I don't think they had a chance to get a quarterback. You know?
No.
I don't, I mean, and I know my next comment, I don't think they could have made a better offer than the Bears or some of the other teams to get Justin Fields. They certainly wouldn't get one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks. And then I like Mac Jones, and I think he's going to the perfect place where he can be, the poor man's Tom Brady 2.0. But I would have been upset if the Steelers gave up very much to go get Mac Jones. Maybe I'll eat those words in 5 or 6 years, but I think he's going to be a very solid pro, but more of a Kirk Cousins than a Tom Brady. And
I think it's going to be Mason Rudolph. I don't think it's going to be any different than that.
I think he's 100 times better than Mason Rudolph. But
Okay, we don't agree. We're never going to agree on this. I mean, I've seen him play a lot of games. You've only seen him play a few games for the Steelers
yeah,
in different situations. But I like what I saw in college. I really do.
yeah,
But I don't even know if he's. I mean, he gave him another year because they had to.
right.
But I don't know if he ever gets a shot anyhow. So we'll have to see.
No, that's true. Well, I think with Mason Rudolph, the year Ben Roethlisberger went down before he signed his big deal, I think if he had snatched the position like Brady had done or other guys had done in their second year and never gave the reins back, that's what you wanted to see. But the fact that he lost his job to Duck Hodges pretty much signed his death warrant, I think, as far as being a starter. But he can be a smart, good, reliable backup. So it's not the worst thing ever.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I agree. It's tough because, but then what he went through and get hit in the head with a helmet and everything else. I mean, he went through stuff that nobody else would go through. And then I don't know if you could ever not give Roethlisberger his job back because you had too much money invested in him.
Yeah. Well, at that point, they could have not given him that contract extension. But they did. But that's water under the bridge. But speaking of size, we saw the opposite, where people took guys pretty high that are not the size.
What was the guy from Louisville? Tutu something or other?
Tutu Atwell, who weighed 145 pounds.
Yeah, well, good thing they let wide receivers have single-digit numbers.
Yeah.
Because he's a perfect number one.
He is a perfect number one. He was, very exciting and productive in college, but Louisville is, it's just, I think just like with, Devontae Smith had one of the best seasons ever for a wide receiver. But he weighs 165 pounds, even if he's listed at 170. And the history of the league is that you have, everybody in the league is the biggest, fastest, and strongest available. Except for these small guys, obviously.
What did Antonio Brown weigh?
185. Antonio Brown was more built like I know you mentioned Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill's solidly built,
Yeah, he is.
More of a spike. Because there was another, the 5'8" receiver out of Purdue is also almost 190 pounds. And while he doesn't have the height or the length you would like, he's a stocky little, whereas Tutu Atwell is just small. And the history is that if guys under 170 just don't last very long because you're getting hit, a lot harder in the NFL. I mean, you wish them well and you hope they do well. But
all right, 3 years from now, we're watching the NFL. And the 5 quarterbacks will win the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Who's had the best year of those 5 3 years from now?
I mean, maybe I'm buying into the Shanahan hype, but I like Trey Lance. I thought he seemed like a good kid and seemed like he was smart and he has all the physical tools. And I think he's going into, depending on how Jimmy G acts this year, a potentially great situation for him. Where he's with the Shanahans. The 49ers have a lot of talent on that team. They have good receivers, a good offensive line, good defense, and, a coach that knows how to, scheme guys open. Like, you watch the 49ers, and they have wide receivers that are wide open. And I think a lot of that is, obviously they draft really incredible athletes, but there's just a good scheme where you have guys that are just schemed open. And,
Well, speaking of schemes, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I saw something kind of funny today that Bart Starr played exactly 16 years for the Packers. Brett Favre, exactly 16 years.
16 years.
And Aaron Rodgers is now paid 16 years. I think they're going to trade him, and I think they're going to trade him to Denver. I don't know what you're going to get for him, but I think it's slightly different than the Brett Favre situation because we're, obviously I'm even old enough to remember this, but Favre was, I'm going to retire every single year. and then didn't. So, and you had Aaron Rodgers waiting in the ring for like 3 seasons. But, at the same time, Rodgers reminds me a little bit of like he's like the NFL's Kevin Durant, who just always seems miserable. He's always complaining. I mean, the team was 14-2 last year, I believe, or 13-3. He's got Devontae Adams. They re-signed Aaron Jones. He's got a good offensive line. You can't keep drafting first round wide receiver. I don't really know what football situation he thinks is going to be that much better than Green Bay.
Well, where would you think besides Denver? What's the other logical landing place for him? New Orleans?
It seems like Denver has things to offer that New Orleans doesn't.
And speaking about things to offer, do you see a scenario where Jimmy G would end up in Green Bay?
I don't think you could trade for. I think if you drafted Trey Lance, you were really hoping to keep Jimmy G around. I think you have a guy that is 21. He played 1 football game last year, and he went to North Dakota State. I don't think you want to throw that guy into the fire year 1. I think you want to give him that Pat Mahomes year to sit and study, be on the sideline with the coaches, talking through things, getting those mental reps.
He hasn't played behind somebody who knows his future's not there.
It's true, but and I know Jimmy G is not Alex Smith, because Alex Smith seems like maybe one of the greatest guys on the planet that was totally cool knowing that, from everything I heard, he was a great mentor to Pat Mahomes and was perfectly fine knowing that his days were numbered. And on some of your Jimmy G, you could look at it like this. You're not going back with Belichick now because they got Mac Jones and Cam Newton.
Yep.
You're in a situation where you really need a prove-it year, I think. Because he's played, about 70% of his games, 60% of the games he's been?
Yeah, something like that.
And you're on a really good team, a chance to certainly win your division, maybe even a Super Bowl contender in the 49ers if, Bose is healthy, everybody on that team is healthy, and you play well. It might be the best thing in your interest to go out and just kick ass this season. Maybe to the point where they trade Trey Lance next year for a pick. Probably not, but,
Well, a lot of interesting things if something happens, because Green Bay would definitely have to make somebody an offer because that team went to the NFC Championship game last year.
But they also have a second-year quarterback who they drafted in the first round in Jordan Love. So,
but do you think he's the guy? Maybe they do.
If you drafted him in the first round last year and he's had a year in your system and you need a quarterback, it would be insane to think that he's not ready, or you really fucked that pick up, right?
Right.
I mean, because if you trade Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love is not the immediate starter, you make Aaron Rodgers look kind of good in a weird way, because and you look like an idiot as a front office. So, and but it sounds like there was some quote from some Green Bay. I mean, I don't know if it was taken out of context, but he was basically like, "Yeah, go host Jeopardy for this year if you want, because you're not playing anywhere but Green Bay."
Yeah, I've heard that they won't trade him, and if he must not play, he cannot play. But he's not going to play for anybody else. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but then it becomes the sunk cost theory of, if he's not going to play, and let's say the Broncos are willing to give you, maybe you can pry a Jerry Jeudy or a Cortland Sutton away along with a first or, a couple picks. It'd be kind of dumb not to, right?
Probably, yeah. We'll see.
I mean, if you got I mean, I know next year's first would probably be like the pick in the late 20s, you'd hope, if you're the Broncos. Because Broncos have a really good team. And I think we talked about it, but the Jets, if Zach Wilson turns out to be good, they drafted a lineman out of USC I really liked with the 14th pick. They got some weapons, a nice running back. You already got Mekhi Becton as a good tackle. I mean, you're building a nice little organization.
How many games did Jacksonville Jaguars win this year?
6. I'm going to say something on the podcast right now. I'm a little down on Trevor Lawrence. I've never watched him and thought this is a special talent. Now, granted, I've watched other people I thought were special talents, and I'll throw one out there right now that I thought Vince Young was going to be a great pro. Clearly, I was off on that one, and I know there were some mental health
Everybody
issues.
thought Vince Young was going to be a great pro, and RG3.
Yeah,
Those are two people everybody thought were can't miss. And
yeah,
Marcus Mariota.
exactly. So I mean, and like I said, I just when I swat, there was moments. Obviously, the USC national title game at Texas. There were other games where you watched Vince Young and you're like, "Holy shit, this guy's incredible." But in the time that I haven't watched every minute of his footage, but I feel like Clemson has had a lot. A lot like Alabama. Clemson has incredible receivers, incredible running backs, great coaching, good offensive line, good defense. They play in the ACC, which is the most difficult conference ever. And I just I never felt like I was watching the next great quarterback of my lifetime. So I'm not really sure. And then, but we did. He did get him and ATN are both in the same place together. So
I mean, that's pretty good when you're the quarterback and you get your best running back that you played with is going to be there with you. I mean, that's a big thing.
yeah. But this is also going to be a chance for Urban Meyer, who already seems like he's already had a few missteps as a head coach that maybe he doesn't quite understand the pro way.
Well, he was asked about Tebow yesterday.
Yeah.
He said, we haven't talked about that yet. Yes or no? Tebow comes back as a tight end with the Jaguars.
Tim Tebow was obviously a great athlete and a really good football player. And, he beat our team in the playoffs, which was absolutely ridiculous. But it's hard to imagine spending this much time away from football and being able to come back and play football.
So you're saying no?
I'm saying no. I'm saying no to him being any kind of an asset to that team. Now, I think Urban Meyer he seems to be kind of the stubborn, my ways right, whatever I say it goes kind of guy. I mean, he brought in that terrible coach from Iowa and tried to sneak it past everybody. So if he gets it set in his mind that he thinks Tebow could do this and he wants him on the team, but I don't think Tebow's going to be anything.
And my point was, will Tebow be on tight ends on a Jacksonville roster next year? Yes or no? Not a starter, not a star. Will he be on the roster? I'm saying yes.
You're saying yes? Okay. Yeah, I think obviously if he's your third or fourth string tight end and you're keeping 4 tight ends on the roster, he's obviously a huge draw. He's going to get your team. I mean, not that Trevor Lawrence shouldn't get your team enough attention, and ATN and some of the other guys on your team.
Oh, they don't need him as a draw right now. I mean, he's a bonus. But, I mean, you don't need him as a draw. I mean, you've sold a lot of tickets having the number 1 pick and having Urban Meyer and then throw the Travis Etienne in there. You don't have any demand. You're going to be fine selling tickets.
Then I would worry if I was Urban Meyer. I'd make sure I don't have a coach's son situation on my hands. Again, I have no idea what Tim Tebow's been doing. We're not buddies or friends or anything, so I have no idea if he's been spending the last year working on. But it's hard to imagine that somebody that's never played the position in high school, college, or the pros has been out of football for 3 or 4 years now. Mm-hmm. Is going to come in and be.
He's been out of sports.
Yeah.
So he's in great shape.
Yeah. But it's great shape, and then there's
football game shape.
Not football game shape, yeah, and not getting hit shape, not blocking. Like I'm saying, I know he knows how to absorb a playbook, and he's been he won a playoff game in the NFL as a quarterback, so I don't doubt his technical ability. But to be out that long, it's hard to imagine that you'd be one of the best 3 guys on an NFL roster, a position you've never played.
All right, we'll see how this story. We get some interesting stories to play out. We got the Aaron Rodgers. We got this.
Yeah.
A lot of people love Belichick's draft in New England.
I think Belichick still has a little bit. I mean, despite his record of drafting receivers and really drafting a lot of players, like when you've been to as many Super Bowls as the Patriots and won as many Super Bowls as the Patriots, you're still in that anything I do looks good mode.
Yeah, but if you look at his draft picks, they rarely make it.
I know.
But he's good at seeing somebody else's player and bringing them over and having them fit his system.
And it does seem like his teammates love Mac Jones. Apparently he's one of those guys that comes in the room and he's the guy everybody's talking to. He's the guy that's sort of the leader. And he throws a great ball. He's got great touch. And he seems smart,
Well, I'm telling our listeners, if you didn't see the tape of Mac Jones walking from the green room out to meet Goodell, watch that tape. Watch watch his face. Watch the way he walks.
He was angry.
He was angry. He's happy to get picked by the Patriots.
Yeah.
But I think he was angry that he was the 15th pick.
And good for him. I mean, you got to build that up in your mind. We saw the Jordan documentary. We watched Tom Brady. Like, if you can, any little slight you can make against yourself is great, you know? I mean, like I said, I'm always excited for football season. I'm very excited for this season to see how things go. And then, you know, and I guess the last thing I'll say on the draft is I really wish Justin Fields well. I know he's going to an organization that doesn't really do well with quarterbacks. So
let me ask you one last question about football.
Okay.
Did the Bucs repeat?
I certainly think so. I think I've said it every year on this podcast, but I've been, you know, whatever phrase you want to use, like I can't ever bring myself to bet against Tom Brady. Just can't do it.
No.
I mean,
if you've ever watched the original Rollerball movie, Tom Brady is the equivalent of Jonathan E.
Okay. And if you're hesitant to watch the original because you watched that terrible movie with LL Cool J and the guy from American Pie, the original is incredibly well done, and it's one of the most apt sports movies ever made, and it's still pertinent today. It deals with sponsorships and big business and sports, and it violence. It's, you know, it deals with I mean, it kind of deals with all the health issues they have athletes dealing with today. And
it was either 1972 or 73, starring James Caan, John Houseman.
Yeah.
Directed by Norman Jewison.
And it's, like I said, it's one of the best sports movies ever made, even though it's a sport that doesn't exist.
It definitely shows that sport is a metaphor for different things.
Yes.
So, if you haven't seen it, but then think about Tom Brady being Jonathan E.
Yeah.
That no matter what they do, he overcomes, just like Tom Brady does. So
yeah.
Something to watch.
I mean, unless Tom Brady goes down with a knee injury or something else, just based on, you know, I mean, a bad hit, or, you know, somebody rolls back on his ankle or something weird. Like, they brought back everybody on offense, including Antonio Brown, who was really starting to play well once he got back into the, you know, you look at the Super Bowl to like week 10 when he really got in there, he was playing fantastic. They brought back Godwin. They brought back, I mean, just across the board.
Oh, for those people who don't follow me on Twitter, I had a football tweet yesterday, and I'll share it to you now. I posed two questions, or two statements. One, I said over under, Cal Trask will be 30 years old before he becomes a full-time starter after Tom Brady. And my other one was, tongue-in-cheek, and hopefully people know their Greek mythology, I said coaching football at Kansas should have been one of the 7 labors of Hercules.
Yeah, that's
It's impossible.
It's true. And I would say this, I think the Trask pick was a great pick for them. Because Trask seems like he might be the ultimate backup.
Yeah.
I mean, when he has players around him, he was a Heisman candidate this year. He's got a quick release. He's not the most athletic guy, obviously. Doesn't have the biggest arm, but, he seems like a high IQ guy that, can keep the ship afloat. If Brady were to miss over the next couple of seasons, miss a couple of games here or there, I think he's the keep the ship afloat kind of quarterback. But in being the ultimate backup, he'll never look good enough that you're like, oh no, he should take over. And I think that's what Trask is going to be.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much, all draft all day. That's been the story all week. Draft, Aaron Rodgers.
It has. It's been really good. And NBA's heating up, and it's fun watching the jockeying for the play-in teams. Teams, 7 through 10?
Yeah.
For the last 2 spots. And so, it's conceivable the Lakers could actually fall, so we'll see.
Oh, and one more draft note.
I'm rooting for Zion to make it, and I'm rooting for the Wizards to make it.
I would love the Wizards. I want the Wizards to get in the playoffs and get to play somebody in a round. I want angry Russell Westbrook, angry Bradley Beal going against somebody. Because I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
And we forgot to mention the Steelers drafted the best punter in the draft, who weighs 260 pounds.
And he's 5'11".
He's 5'11", 260. That is a big boy at punter.
And they also said he's probably got the strongest arm of any punter because he threw a 43-yard touchdown pass.
Yes. He's like the hefty lefty, Jared Lorenzen. You know, the Super Bowl.
Well, you and I have lamented the Steeler punting woes for years, so hopefully this is the solution.
To be fair, and it's sort of like the Knicks with the Steelers with punters, where they keep trying to bring other people in, and they just keep going back to the mediocre guy they have just because they haven't been able to find a way to get rid of him. Not that he's a bad guy. I wish nothing, but the best for Jordan Berry. But he's a very unexciting average punter who just they can't seem to find anybody to take his place.
Yeah. So I got an entertainment moment.
Okay.
I watched a new movie with Amanda Seyfried on.
Oh, on Netflix?
Yes.
Things Seen and Not Heard. We watched that yesterday.
And what did you think?
I didn't like the ending. And I don't want to spoil anything for everybody, but I feel like they opened a lot of interesting lore questions with both the husband's past and then the family of the past, and I wanted more lore and backstory on those issues and less of what we got, is what I would say. And I don't think that spoils anything.
What grade would you give it?
A C+.
A what?
C+.
C+?
Yeah.
Mom and I gave it a B.
Okay.
I think it's hard to make it a new ghost story.
It is.
And this one had some things that I thought were really, really interesting and unique.
I just wanted to go deeper on, I didn't feel like we spent enough, they opened up a lot of questions about the past and what was happening, and I think we just sort of skimmed over them pretty quickly.
Yeah, I might have to read the book now.
I can see that. Well, I have two good food moments.
Okay.
First, yesterday we got some takeout from St. Roch, which is like a... Now, granted, St. Roch had 8 shootings last night. It's a neighborhood that's attempting to turn nice, but it's not quite there yet. But the St. Roch Market is like a really long place that has like 8 little counters in it with different restaurants.
Mm-hmm. It's like a food mart.
Like a little food mart, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And we went to Buttermilk Chicken, and
Ooh.
they have a spicy popcorn chicken. And the spicy popcorn chicken is like a dry Nashville hot with a lot of flavor to it. I mean, it's really good quality chicken. And I got some chicken fingers too. We just had a big pile of chicken essentially. But the Nashville chicken pieces are excellent. They're like I said, it's a dry seasoning on them, but they're heavily seasoned. And they've got a lot of nuance and flavor. I mean, you get the heat, but you'll also get a lot of other flavors in there. And you can tell it's like fresh chicken. It's really well cooked.
Did Marie have that too?
She got the spicy chicken sandwich, which it looked like hers was just a bigger version of the popcorn chicken.
Okay.
But she enjoyed it quite a bit. And then we went to Bywater Bakery, which is a cool little it's like a lot of places in New Orleans where you're around a bunch of houses and all of a sudden on the corner there's a large house that's a restaurant. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of, we just got a couple treats to go and ate them later in the day, but they had a lot of outdoor seating on the street so you could stay socially distanced. They had like a 2-piece band that yesterday was an accordion and he was playing percussion with like a box and some other stuff. It was decent. I wish they were further away from the microphone where you ordered because it became somewhat of an issue. But they have a lot of savory things, a lot of breakfast sandwiches and things. And then they had some treats. They had a really good cinnamon roll. And then we split a brownie bomb, which is like it just looks like you had a round brownie and cut it in half. But it was like some hybrid of a brownie. And if you cooked a lava cake slightly longer, because I like my stuff a little gooey. I like an undercooked brownie. So this had like a nice, really light colored, crispy brownie top. But inside it was light and kind of gooey at the same time. It's really good. And then Maria got 2 Italian wedding cookies, which she's a fan of, and she said they were really good. Which are those little like nut-filled cookies covered in powdered sugar.
Yep.
Yeah. But like I said, it was a cool little spot. There was, an artist on, Chris Corner selling some paintings, so it seemed like a cool little place. And they make homemade breads too. There's a lot of homemade bread places in New Orleans.
You can try it for breakfast sometime.
Yeah, we want to for sure. They also offer breakfast gumbo, which is regular gumbo with grits and eggs mixed in, or some version, which isn't really my style. But they have like a croissant sandwich. They've got some different egg dishes. But Bywater Bakery seems like a really good spot. And again, they had it.
Sweet moment is what I made for breakfast today, which I just posted on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
Fruited French toast on a French croissant.
Oh, nice.
So I decided I'll never use bread again to make French toast after using croissants today.
I see.
I get these giant croissants from Fresh Market. They were tremendous, and then soak them really heavily in the batter because they're airy and that. And they get a little crisp and then soft on the inside. Is really nice with blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries. It was outstanding.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the biggest mistake people make with French toast. Is I've seen in restaurants too where they just like slap, throw it on the grill. Like you gotta let it soak.
You gotta let it soak. And I made cinnamon bread French toast.
Okay.
Some of the cinnamon bread we bought at Sprouts, and I let it really soak a long time.
Oh, very nice.
You really have to do that. If you soak it, then you get the flavor all the way through.
Yeah.
If you get French toast that somebody could just run through the dredge, it's not any good.
No, because you just get a little bit. You so basically have plain bread in the middle. Like you want to get it so it's got that crisp, but you break into it and it's got like a soft. You really tell like it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I invite somebody for breakfast at my house now, you're probably gonna get fruited French toast on French croissant.
There you go. Awesome.
3 F's.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll be back next week with.
Probably more NBA focus next week as we get close to the end of the season.
I would say more NBA focus. Maybe we'll get a little baseball in there.
A little hockey.
A little hockey.
You can take on the hockey because we're close there too.
We're getting very close, yeah.
Penguins are back in first place in their division.
And they're playing just really, really well. They just beat the Capitals 3-0 last night. So, yeah. Everybody have a good week. If you're down in the south, it's starting to get hot and gross. So,
brutal.
Be ready for that.
It is brutal.
Yeah.
We're going to have a couple of 95, 96 days here in the middle of the week.
Yeah, I know. It's a real bummer.
Yeah.
But, it's what you get.
All right, buddy. Enjoy.